Ready to hit the pause button on your parenting fails? Ready to feel better about your parenting? Welcome to Parenting Pause, the podcast, where all of you is welcome. I'm Leslie Potter, the founder of the Pure Joy Way, a mother, a parent coach, and a fellow traveler on this journey to wake up in our parenting. And I believe together we can make this a better world for ourselves and our kiddos. It can be really challenging and confusing to read all the parenting guidance out there, especially even in the conscious parenting world, because often we're focused more on our internal experience, but sometimes that can be seen as a way to control my child's external experience. Now, I'm not saying the experts mean this, but just like in attachment parenting, I read it very different than the core message. So it's really important when you're looking outside to experts to take that information inside. Taking it inside gives you a chance to feel it in your body and to think about it and to contemplate. First of all, what is your motive? What are you trying to have happen? What is your goal in actually even coming to the conscious parenting world? I know for me and often other people I talk to, we just didn't want to be our parents. I committed with all my heart and soul, if I was going to be a parent, I was not going to parent like my mom did. And yet, that wasn't a really great reason to parent in this way, because what I did is I flipped over to the other polarity. And anytime I thought that I was, exhibiting behavior like my mother, then it was bad, it was wrong. And so what began to happen was I wasn't able to set healthy personal boundaries. Healthy personal boundaries are the number one thing that I've learned I need in all my relationships, but especially in my parenting. Taking responsibility for my boundary makes sure that I don't have to bind and limit my child. Now, you may be asking, well, what do you mean by that? Because a lot of the experts out there say children need limits and boundaries. Well, from my view, I say children experience limits and boundaries when we make sure that we own our limits and boundaries as the parent. Now, the reason this is so hard to do is every time I set a healthy personal boundary, feelings of selfishness, abandonment, rejection, feeling unsupported of my daughter, all of those arise in my being. And I spent a lot of time organizing my life to never feel those feelings. And I sure didn't want my daughter to feel those feelings, because those were a lot of the feelings that I grew up feeling abandoned and rejected and unsupported by my mother. So you can see how flipping over to the other side, I really just did the opposite thing. I still wasn't centering my own being in who I am, what I know, in my inner happiness or joy. That's why I call my work Pure Joy, because I wasn't centering within my own inner essence and my pure joy inside. I had been trained, which probably you are too, most of us are, to look outside for the cause of my discomfort and my happiness. And parenting was this huge trigger bed for me, because I actually stepped in on some level because of how I thought I was going to feel when I imagining being a mother and holding my child, playing with my child, connecting with my child. This really good feeling arose inside. And empowering? Yes, this was what I wanted. Now, of course, I didn't really take into account the other side of parenting, of what that meant to show up inside my own being. My fantasy, in a way, was projected out onto my child, that being a parent, I was going to be experiencing all these wonderful feelings. Well, I did, and I do. And yet, when I began to experience the other feelings of feeling, selfish, abandoning, rejecting, unsupportive, mean, when I began to feel all these negative feelings, something inside got really, really wonky. Guaranteed, I wanted to bind and limit my daughter. Why? I believed in that moment that she was the one causing all of that discomfort inside. And I had a really hard time stepping back into my internal experience and recognizing my daughter was triggering my experience, my feelings. She was not the cause of them. Beginning to get this was so incredibly empowering, and at the same time so incredibly challenging, because my habitual movement and my template from my parenting growing up kept bleeding through into my truth of what I wanted to be. So throwing out my opposite, throwing out the other polarity, that I was going to be different than my mom, slowly I stepped inside. I entered into the sacred place inside me that lived in this pure joy, parented in pure joy, open to pure joy, that has always been here and wasn't dependent on my daughter. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Paused. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with your mama friends. You can also leave a review wherever you listen, which will support getting the Pure Joy message out. Come on over to the Pure Joy Parenting Practice Facebook page, or join me on Instagram to hear more. And don't forget to download your free copy of the Safe Seat course on the Pure Joy website. And while there, check out the offerings page to go deeper in the Pure Joy work.